Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. He just threatened arson and admitted to going to jail in the past. I'm assuming also for arson. OP, I think the police really should have been called immediately. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I will burn this store down. We have a saying at our store that we sometimes joke about with each other because for the general sense of the phrase, we really are crazy about our pets. We're not actually this crazy. Some background. Working at a pet store, you'll find that the best staff are people that have multiple pets or have had years of experience with pets. This is something that we hire for. We have associates with all kinds of pets, ranging from cats and dogs to dwarf hamsters and skunks. So naturally, the person we have in our aquatics department has 30 years worth of experience in keeping fish. And he's really brought our saltwater game to a whole new level with the introduction of bold new fish and a frag tank for corals. This means that we have an influx of customers that noticed our new selections and presumably told their friends that our store has some exceptional specimens for sale. And we do. Our prices are great, for people that can afford saltwater tanks. I can't yet. Anyway, of the new saltwater customers, there are several regulars that buy up most of our promising fish for their tanks. One of those customers we refer to as Lazy Eye. Now, Lazy Eye was very excited about starting up a saltwater tank. I first talked to him about the costs and maintenance involved several months ago. After this sobering conversation, he proceeded to buy all kinds of things to set up his new aquarium. The next few weeks were spent on water quality, troubleshooting flow, and generally just making sure he wouldn't immediately kill off any fish. At our store, the return policy on freshwater fish is something like 30 days. We're pretty confident we can keep our fish healthy enough in the store so that when they end up in an aquarium wherein a small child will regularly feed their fish with juice, soda, pieces of their sandwich, or in one case the rest of their cereal, the fish will likely live long enough for the customer to assume that they were definitely the ones that killed them. That being said, we don't have any guarantee on saltwater fish. We try and keep our fish in the store long enough to detect problems, and if the fish seems healthy, offer them up as a beautiful addition to our customers' tanks. But there are so many factors that can lead to the death of a saltwater fish that we can't process any returns. Lazy Eye bought a few pricey fish and lost a few pricey fish. He was so excited for the fish, he practically bought them right out of our shipment. We warned him repeatedly that we wouldn't be able to guarantee the fish, especially having just arrived in the store. No, I understand. I just want this one so much. So he buys a couple of fish at a time, and the weeks go by. And so on one nameless day, the insanity began. His latest fish had died after a day in his tank. He was demanding a refund. At this point, we'd returned one fish out of pity because we were pretty sure at the time of sale that it wouldn't make it. This was a one-time courtesy. I want my money back for the fish. He died very quickly. I'm sorry, sir. You know we can't return saltwater fish. But he was sick. Sir, our company policy is such that we absolutely cannot process a return on any saltwater fish. I did tell you the last time that we were not allowed to do so, but as a courtesy, we would. That time. No, I want my money back for the fish. He was sick. He was agitated, but not yet a problem. Normally, this goes two ways. Scenario A, he gets upset about the policy and demands a refund or he'll call customer service, at which point we let him, seeing as how they will apologize and let him know that the policy is strictly enforced. Scenario B, he gets upset but sees that we aren't going to back down and actually listens when we offer to test his tank water, explore ordering fish for him that we'll keep until we can assure him they won't die right away, and generally be all kinds of awesome customer service on his butt. He didn't conform to our expectations. Actually, sir, we can't. No, I want my money back. I want it back and I want a new fish. Give me the money back. Calm down. No, I will go to jail again if I have to. I want a new fish. Sir, I'm sorry. I will burn this store down. I don't care. I want my money. Attempts to pacify him were laughable. Later, when we could laugh and weren't terrified that he'd do something crazy, He was asked to leave, and his screams of defiance all the way out the front door were, at best, incoherent. We were told if he came back and was still hostile to call the police. He's come back since, all smiles once again, and still buys supplies and things, though I'm never sure if he's looking at product or looking at me. And our second story. What do you get for the friend who steals everything? Revenge. I used to have a friend who was a bit of a klepto. He bought a shotgun, sold it to a friend, stole it back, and sold it to another friend. He broke into people's houses, shoplifted, and lifted stuff at parties. We met in high school, became friends, and even though I knew him, I trusted him. He was two-timing these two girls. One of them had a new roomie named Joe. Names have been altered to protect the guilty. One day, Joe's duffel bag disappears. Joe was relatively new to town. He had some kids he'd lost when he split with his ex. In his duffel bag, he had all of his pictures of his children, all of his money, his clothes, and his gun. He was enraged and hurt at the theft. Joe and his friends suspected everyone. He did everything he could think of to have his property returned. He accused and threatened his roommate, Hope, chased kids out of parties. It was a big deal for him. Hope moved back east. Some innocent kids lost all of their friends. Joe never caught on that my friend Mason had stolen his bag. Mason didn't get along with his father, who was married to a McDonald's manager. He was getting kicked out all the time. One weekend, my parents were out of town. They told me not to have anyone over, and I invited Mason. In the months that followed that weekend, it became clear that things were missing from my house. My headphones were gone, as well as my dad's cell phone, etc. It took longer than it should have for me to put two and two together. While my parents suspected that I had stolen from them, I started to realize the extent of the missing items. Their size. Mason was kicked out again and found refuge at a friend's house, the brothers Mick and Mark. We'd all been close friends for a long time, but they jumped immediately to the correct conclusion when their rent money vanished. Mason was kicked out. They were pissed. He was denying it. I didn't believe it could be him. We still hung out, but tensions ran high. One night, following this recent theft, a party was happening and we were all going to go. We were all at Mick and Mark's house, Mason too, waiting for them to finally break free of crowd inertia and begin to move in the direction of this party. We had too many people for one car, so I brought Mason on my bike. He requested we stop by the parking lot where his car was parked so he could change. In the parking lot, Mick gets into an argument with one of the passengers of his car. It was taking a while, so I drove off for the party with Mason after he changed. That night, Mason's car was broken into. Everything he owned was taken from that car. He blamed Mick and Mark. They denied it. A few months later, one of my friends confessed to me that they had stolen Mason's stuff. They realized they'd made the right call when they found some of their missing things in with his possessions. That's when I realized that Mason had no boundaries. He'd done the same thing to my family. Friendships ended over these events, and Mason disappeared from our lives. Mick and Mark did not find their rent money, but they had no doubt who had taken it. They had their revenge. I had not had mine. After much thought, I decided what to do. Joe had been in town for years now. He developed into a fine, upstanding thug whom virtually nobody in their right mind would cross. He was in a gang. Not the high school type. He had Jobstopper ink all over and was well known. One day I ran into Joe. I'd called Hope back east and let her know that Mason had stolen Joe's bag. She was grateful for the closure, but forgave him. Joe was grateful for the closure as well, remorseful for innocents he'd hurt, and curious what Mason's last name was. I was as helpful as I could be. Little by little, the story started to come to me. They chased him out of a couple of eateries he worked at. He lost those jobs because he was too scared to return. I don't know what all happened to Mason, but I do know payback is a B word. And our last story. Entitled dude parks in disabled ramp space at posh restaurant. This happened 2 years ago when I went out with a group of friends at a very posh restaurant in town for a birthday celebration for a friend who uses a wheelchair. Important for the story later. The restaurant itself had only recently been awarded its first Michelin star, and reservations had to be made months in advance. For our area, this was the most posh restaurant around. Dress code, prefix, multi-course menu, minor local celebs and regular attendance, the works. And we were very excited to be there for our friend's birthday. The birthday boy was turning 70-something. Yikes, am I a bad friend that I forget? And lives with multiple sclerosis. So he uses a powered chair and has a fancy van with a little robotic mechanism that picks up his chair and him with it. For him, leaving the house at all is a painful ordeal, but when it was this restaurant, it was worth it. The dining room was all seated roughly at the same time. The dinner's many courses were certainly worthy of that Michelin star or more, a true feast. As we began to leave and got out the front door, we could all see that the restaurant's small parking lot was quite full, and in the no parking zone / loading ramp of the disabled spot my friend's van was parked in was a brand new souped up hot rod parked literally inches from the van's sliding door. So there was no way he could get in. My friend was in tears and worried. He's sensitive and quiet, and so am I generally. Until you hurt someone I love. I marched back inside the restaurant, past the maitre d', and yelled at the top of my lungs to the assembled restaurant, "Who parked illegally in a disabled loading zone?" Everyone looked up, but nobody moved. I yelled again, "Who parked blocking a disabled ramp? Someone in a wheelchair is now blocked in. The police are on the way to tow your car." Everyone began exchanging murmurs and glances, and finally a young douche bro got up from a table where a beautifully dressed woman sat, his mortified date. He ran out with his keys but said loudly enough for people to hear, "They told me it was okay. I couldn't park my car in just any spot." My friend's wheelchair had by now also motored into the front door, and his quiet voice spoke up loudly enough for everyone to hear, "It's never okay. You were very wrong." The jerk moved his car and meekly squeaked a half-hearted apology, but it was clear to everyone any goodwill with this date had evaporated, as it had with everyone else at the restaurant. We didn't end up actually calling the cops, but got a nice justice boner from watching this entitled fool be humiliated so soundly. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.